Ladies and gentlemen, it's the most wonderful time of the year. The air grows colder, but your heart grows warm. The time of year when you remember your mom sitting you by the fireplace, facing you toward the familiar and welcoming glow of the television, and saying, "For the love of God, watch cartoons and shut up for like 5 minutes." Then, her going to pour herself an extra tall glass of eggnog. Mom loved her eggnog. Memories. Lasting emotional scars from the holidays aside, the festivities of the holiday season also guarantee a plethora of Christmas and holiday-themed TV episodes. But there is one that left such a lasting impression that it's one of my annual Christmas must-watches. So today, let's talk about how Hey Arnold created the best Christmas special. There have been countless Christmas specials made throughout the decades since television was created and started acting as a substitute for human interaction. Think of your favorite pre-streaming era TV show, and chances are, it had its very own holiday special, where the characters learn about Christmas. No, not that an innkeeper was willing to deny shelter to a woman who was so far into labor that she was crowning the King of Kings.
Don't you blaspheme in here! Don't you blaspheme in here!
Rather, to show that the meaning of the holidays should be peace, love, and goodwill towards men. Oh, and cutthroat capitalism, and how said rampant capitalism incentivizes creating Christmas specials to generate peace, love, and goodwill toward the brand. Christmas specials tend to follow at least one of several premises. A bad guy finds redemption. Finding the holiday spirit. Helping someone in need. Discovering that the best presents are our loved ones. Of course, these are all pretty standard Aesops and plot motivations for pretty much any and every story ever, but they become extra flagrant and soapboxy during these very special Christmas episodes. We as an audience are just trained to expect and even desire the overtly preachy messages when it's wrapped in the warm and comforting veneer of Christmas. We accept shallow and overt moralizing being shoved down our mental chimneys like so much Nordic fat man because, since the advent of TV, that's just how Christmas specials always were, and therefore always should be. This video is discounting classics like The Grinch, A Charlie Brown Christmas, and any of the Rankin Bass Christmas specials, as those have kind of transcended being a bog-standard Christmas special and are now inseparable from the iconic American holiday experience. Instead, we're talking about those kind of one-off specials that get made every year. The ones that just come and go. They're fun to watch as you overindulge in holiday entertainment to be at peak Christmas spirit. This isn't to say that Christmas specials are inherently vapid and empty. In fact, there are many really great, fun, and dare I say touching Christmas specials which have been made throughout the years. But the vast majority you'll watch once and only ever watch again if you happen to see it while flipping through the channels. However, amidst the annually increasing number of run-of-the-mill Christmas and holiday seasonal episodes, every once in a while, you'll find one or two with a shining red nose, which helps them stand out in the hazy bombardment of Christmas specials. Get it? Like Rudolph. Nailed it, Dan! Episodes like the OC Christmas special, which was a weird, almost slapstick comedy take on dysfunctional family Christmas parties, with an increasingly frantic take on Carol of the Bells as sung by cats. Yes, that's a thing that happened.
She made a llama Claus. A llama what? Holy Moses, it's beautiful.
Rocco pulled a Spirit of Christmas while indulging in its usual flights of fancy. Rugrats produced several great holiday specials, including a relatively groundbreaking retelling of the Hanukkah story. Of course, all of this is very subjective. We tend to look fondly back upon the Christmas specials we watched when we were the most impressionable. That tender age when the holiday season still has that magical feel to it. The time in your life when you innocently believed that Santa was real, and didn't consider how Santa's unauthorized manufacturing of toys and games, down to the exact packaging, would make him one of the most prolific and successful counterfeiters in history. But the Hey Arnold Christmas special is really something else. It's perhaps not as well known today, but I think that any viewer who watches it will see that it's a legitimately good piece of storytelling that is really, genuinely special. What's Hey Arnold, you ask? Hey Arnold premiered in November 1996, and although it wasn't one of the first wave of Nicktoons, I think most would agree that Hey Arnold helped Nick become a ratings juggernaut, as well as entering a golden age of children's entertainment. Running from 1996 to 2004, and spanning 5 seasons with 2 movies, Hey Arnold centered around the life of the titular football-headed Arnold, as he interacted with the diverse and quirky cast of characters in his life. If it sounds cliche, or even boring, I assure you, I'm not doing the show anywhere near the justice it deserves. I could do an entire video solely about why Hey Arnold is one of the best cartoons ever. What was great about Nicktoons of the era was a deliberate attempt to pioneer different art styles and vibes. They achieved this by prioritizing creators over a more sterile, boardroom approach to the development of shows. Nick executives Geraldine Layburn and Vanessa Coffey allowed creators to be the driving force behind creation, along with deliberately shying away from developing a ubiquitous visual style, unlike reigning animation heavyweights Disney or Hanna-Barbera. The result was highly bold and experimental cartoons, which pushed a lot of boundaries for the time. Each show had unique animation, which made it stand out not only from other cartoons of the era, but their fellow Nicktoons. More than that, with their newfound creative freedom, Nicktoons were able to explore their own identity and find their heart. Rugrats was about a sense of wonder, as we view the world through the eyes of babies and their boundless imagination. Ren and Stimpy was weird for the sake of weird, and Rocco was whimsical and light. But what about Hey Arnold? Stylistically, Hey Arnold could be considered almost hipster. It had a consistent jazzy soundtrack, a certain tempo which propelled stories forward, as well as a distinct art style that made it instantly recognizable. More interestingly, Hey Arnold was a very mature show in comparison to other Nicktoons. It never talked down to or took for granted the intelligence of its audience. I'm not just talking about getting crap past the radar. Cartoon writers and animators have long been notorious for sneaking jokes into shows, specifically for any parents who might be watching with their kids.
And my personal favorite, Lonely Space Vixen. That's for after you go to bed.
I'm talking about a true, grounded maturity. Episodes focused heavily on exploring the characters and how they interacted with the world. Hey Arnold was a funny show, but it always knew how to take itself seriously, and certainly wasn't afraid to tackle moral and ethical issues. It was a kind of quality writing that doesn't come around often, and quite frankly, only happens when creators truly believe in the stories and world they're building. Hey Arnold's writing was so good that it could take absolutely insane and memeable premises, like, say a kid who spent all his life living on a stoop and was deathly afraid of leaving.
Hey! Stoop kids afraid to leave his stoop!
And turning them into stories that could bring you to tears. How, you ask? Simple. Hey Arnold is probably the most human of the Nicktoons. It tried to build understanding for an infinitely diverse cast of characters and guests. It introduced characters who would have certain quirks or trademarked behaviors, then slowly over the course of the series give us depth and understanding, while not retroactively invalidating or undermining those previous quirks or trademarks. Take for example, the one-off character Pigeon Man, a crazy recluse who lives on a roof with his army of birds. What seems like a gag premise turns into a really touching episode about a man who was so shunned and othered in his youth that he shut himself away from humanity because you know who would never purposefully hurt him? Who would never emotionally manipulate him? Who would never try to bring him down? His birds. He isn't some crazy old man, just a bit of an eccentric whom the world shunned. The episode actually ends with Pigeon Man flying away, but it's still not played for laughs. Within the story, the world, and the emotional investment they created, you don't think twice about it. It feels natural. It feels right. You just watch and hope that wherever this lonely Pigeon Man ends up, that it's a happier place. Hey Arnold is easily one of the most humanistic shows ever aired on Nickelodeon, and certainly one of the best shows I've ever seen, which leads us to So, what happens when you take the usual tropes of a Christmas special, put them in the hands of a creative team dedicated to making every episode and story a special experience? Well, you get Hey Arnold, Arnold's Christmas. An episode which is not only acclaimed as one of the best episodes of Hey Arnold, but one of the best Christmas episodes ever made. Arnold's Christmas begins with some beautiful establishing shots of the city where Arnold lives. The neighborhood is covered in a nice thick blanket of snow, and the kids are doing what kids do in the snow. Wait, do I have to mention that in the episode It's Almost Christmas? I feel like you should have picked up on that from the thumbnail. Helga and her best friend, the ever-lovable brain, Phoebe, discuss the meaning of Christmas, with Helga taking the standpoint that
Christmas is about presents. It's about getting as much stuff as you can possibly get. It's about money and flash. It's about shopping like a barbarian. It's about getting yours before the other guy gets his.
remember that. At the same time, Arnold discusses with Gerald what makes a good present. More specifically, our ever morally upstanding football head points out that presents need to come from the heart. So far, the episode is shaping up to be a run-of-the-mill Christmas episode, right? Enter Mr. Wynn, a lovable, goofy background character amongst a plethora of other lovable background characters. He, along with the other members of the boarding house run by Arnold's grandparents, are playing Secret Santa, and of course, Arnold draws Mr. Wynn. As established, Arnold believes in giving meaningful gifts, but despite living under the same roof, he doesn't really know much about Mr. Wynn. Of the few things he does know, he knows that during the holiday seasons, Mr. Wynn's usually upbeat and positive demeanor become less so. Arnold, being Arnold, tries to figure out what Mr. Wynn would like, and we get literally one of the funniest moments in the series.
Could probably use a nice warm sweater.
No, I got a plenty of sweater. See, red, blue, green, wool, cotton, plenty of sweater. You want one?
I watch this special every year, and it never fails to crack me up. And then, the episode takes a turn from the standard and becomes something unforgettable. We learn that Mr. Wynn is a Vietnamese immigrant who lived during the war and survived the fall of Saigon. During the final moments of the American pullout from the city, evacuees wanting to flee from the North Vietnamese army overwhelmed the US Embassy in hopes of getting a seat on one of the evacuation helicopters. Mr. Wynn was one of them. As the last chopper was about to take off, the crew said they only had space for one more, and Mr. Wynn made a decision that no person should have to make, but any good person would. You see, Mr. Wynn was the father of a toddler named Mai, and in a moment of desperation, he gave his daughter to the soldier, trusting that she would have a better life in America without him than life together under the rule of the North Vietnamese. When he was finally able to immigrate to America, he came to Arnold's city in the hopes of reuniting with her. Holy crap. Things just got real. Like, reality real. You see, what happened to Mr. Wynn isn't some fictional situation. During the fall of Saigon, there were, in fact, mass evacuations of Americans and South Vietnamese during something called Operation Frequent Wind. The situation was so frantic and dire that American ships were literally pushing empty helicopters off their flight decks and into the sea to make room for incoming helicopters carrying evacuees. I recommend reading about it as it's a really interesting part of the war. Arnold and Gerald attempt to reunite Mr. Wynn and his daughter Mai by searching government records, but due to being Christmas Eve, the busy government worker, Mr. Bailey, agrees to help them if they do his last-minute Christmas shopping. Only in a cartoon would an adult trust two random kids from off the street with hundreds of dollars of Christmas cash and expect them to return. Like, maybe in a moment of exhausted desperation the idea would pop into his head, but then his rational, grown-up mind would step in and say, "Hey, that's dumb." During a fun shopping montage, they meet Helga, who is trying to find the perfect gift for Arnold, the secret object of her burning desire. If what I wrote there seems overly dramatic to describe the childhood crush of this preteen girl, I assure you, if anything, I'm underplaying it. To even begin scratching the surface of the character Helga G. Pataki would require an entirely separate video. Arnold and Gerald tell her that the gifts she is considering are more about flash than offering any thought or emotional investment. I wonder what that was about. The kids have nearly completed the purchase of all the presents on Mr. Bailey's list, except one. What? Did you think it would be that easy? The last item on the list is that year's hottest product, a pair of Nancy Spumoni snow boots. Remember how in the mid-2000s, Uggs were the must-have fashion item for girls? I sure do. And I also remember the incident with this girl I had a crush on that resulted in Uggs becoming one of my mortal enemies. Anyways, Nancy Spumoni snow boots are like Uggs, on steroids. In classic Christmas movie fashion, the stores are all out. Not having fulfilled their end of the bargain, Mr. Bailey refuses to help the kids find Mai. Disappointed at not having helped Mr. Huynh find the perfect gift, the boys head home. But someone overhears their conversation, and the gears start turning. Helga returns home unable to find the perfect gift for Arnold, but is surprised because her mother managed to get her a pair of Nancy Spumoni snow boots. Huh, well isn't that a coincidence? Despite loving her new gift, Helga's two plot elements converge. Learning the meaning of Christmas is goodwill towards others, and finding the perfect gift for Arnold. Making a selfless sacrifice, Helga gives Mr. Bailey her new snow boots, and despite initial reluctance, he agrees to spend the rest of Christmas Eve trying to locate Mai Huynh. Arnold returns home as everyone is exchanging gifts, and just as Arnold is about to apologize for not being able to get Mr. Huynh the one perfect gift, the doorbell rings, and in walks Mai Huynh, a true Christmas miracle. So, what makes this Christmas special? The entire episode is beautifully written and animated. It's surprisingly and painfully poignant. Lots of Christmas specials will give the main characters a token moral or ethical conundrum from which they can rediscover the meaning of Christmas. It all comes off so formulaic and meaningless, a cynical cash grab with which networks can maximize profits by appeasing the desire for any and all Christmas content during the holidays. Hey Arnold takes the traditional tropes of a Christmas special, which offer a kind of quick burst of feel-good holiday spirit, as well as serving as a nice ethical booster shot, and introduces a sense of tragedy and stakes. It even starts like a standard Christmas special, with the kids pondering and debating the meaning of Christmas, and taking jabs at commercialism. Very a Charlie Brown Christmas.
Oh no! My own dog gone commercial. I can't stand it.
Enter Mr. Huynh. Literally. Until then, Mr. Huynh was often just kind of there in the background. But his introduction in this episode was beautifully framed by him literally entering the boarding house and metaphorically entering the story. This is a great scene that shows that it's his story and immediately setting the tone. Mr. Huynh is not initially shown at the party, but rather alone in the dark, cold city. As the wind blows, he hears his daughter's voice. It's a wonderful shot and completely changes the episode into something we didn't expect. Other Christmas specials have sometimes tackled heavier social topics on their quest to teach the characters, and therefore the audience, the spirit of Christmas. Off the top of my head, Saved by the Bell. During the Saved by the Bell Christmas two-parter, the gang befriends a worker at the mall who turns out to be homeless. The Bayside students learn about homelessness, and the episode is a really nice attempt to use the season to shed light on the struggle of the homeless and how larger society likes to demonize the impoverished. But it sometimes feels a little heavy-handed. It feels like it's pandering. Arnold's Christmas never feels soapboxy. Even when the kids are explicitly monologuing about the meaning of Christmas, it never feels out of place or out of character in the world. In fact, the best stereotypical Christmas monologue is Helga's. She does the summing up Christmas lecture that we all expect to Mr. Bailey in hopes of convincing him to find Mr. Huynh's daughter. She explicitly repudiates her earlier beliefs on the meaning of Christmas from the beginning of the episode.
It's not about snow boots. It's not about flashy, expensive presents or getting yours before the other guy gets his.
But ready? Mr. Bailey says no. Then, her actual Christmas speech begins. Her tone drops from that standard high-minded, patronizing, and pandering voice, which lots of kids' shows did when highlighting, "This is what the episode is about." Her voice becomes that of a real person, the voice and sincerity of Helga at her most raw, and she utters only a few words. "For pity's sake, are you that cold?" And that, right there, is powerful. Not just the tone of voice, but the word choice and the distillation of what the meaning of the holidays are. The high-minded ideas and spirit of the holidays, about helping others, these are all admirable moral and ethical axioms to espouse. But at the end of the day, what does it all mean? For pity's sake, are you that cold? In your heart, are you oblivious to the plight of others? Do you work to benefit others? It's beautiful and completely in character for Helga's words to be that eloquent and that biting. See, Helga, despite her usual angry and bullying veneer, is a character with a deep well of emotion and intelligence. She is consistently shown to be an expert at reading people and has a firm understanding of the world around her. She usually wields her laser-sharp perception to hone in on the weaknesses of the people in her life. It's what makes her an effective bully. But we see that when properly utilized, Helga's intelligence, passion, and intensely poetic way with words can bring about positive change. So for Helga to be able to articulate herself so well never takes you out of the story. It all feels so natural to the world of Hey Arnold. Which brings us to our next point. In keeping with Hey Arnold's more grounded nature and nuanced approach to characters and characterization, there isn't really a bad guy of the episode. I mean, the closest thing to a villain would be like, I don't know, the VC, as they were laying siege to Saigon? But no one in this episode is a mustache-twirling bad guy who wants to ruin Christmas. What about that jerk, Mr. Bailey? He wouldn't help Arnold and Gerald find Mr. Wynn's daughter. How unconscionable! But then you think about it. The dude is working late on Christmas Eve. He's a tired and overworked bureaucrat who just wants to get home and be with his family. He may be a down-on-his-luck schlub under a lot of stress, but he's never malicious. He's never cruel. When he refuses their request to search for Mai, he even invites them to grab some eggnog from the office party happening in the next room before they leave. Heck, he doesn't even say he won't search for Mai at all. He just says he can't do it now, on Christmas Eve. Given how reasonable Mr. Bailey seems to be, he would likely go out of his way to help them on any other day. You see, this episode is very humanistic. Christmas specials tend to have, not always, but often, an element of something magical or otherworldly. This makes sense as the Christmas spirit is, in the broadest sense, that there is some greater hand at play during the holiday season that brings out the best in humanity. If you want to get non-secular about it, the winter holidays, for Christians, is a celebration of the birth of Jesus. For kids, the idea of Santa is ubiquitous to the holiday season. The magical fat man, whose worldwide surveillance network is the envy of even Mark Zuckerberg, often makes appearances in Christmas episodes. His role in an episode and interaction with the protagonist tend to vary from very much influencing events to just being a cute little wink nod and everything in between, but not in Arnold's Christmas. Just like how the episode starts as a standard holiday episode, the heartwarming conclusion is very much the kind of ending we can expect from your average Christmas special. The difference is in the details. In many ways, Mr. Wynn's reunion with his long-lost daughter Mai on Christmas Eve was nothing short of a miracle. But at no point is there any supernatural influence. And to be clear, the supernatural does exist in the world of Hey Arnold. That message is kind of what makes Arnold's Christmas stand out, and indeed is a better message to send to kids during the holidays. That miraculous things can happen in this world of ours, but miracles only happen through hard work and goodwill towards others, not divine intervention. That miracles are the sum of the good intentions in our hearts and the good deeds we put forth into the world. Arnold tried to get a meaningful gift for Mr. Wynn. Gerald helped him. Miriam stood in line all day to get Helga the Nancy Spumoni snow boots she wanted. Helga was willing to give up those new snow boots. Mr. Bailey, despite his initial hesitation, was willing to stay late and do the search for Mai. Everyone in the show tries to do the right and good thing, and because of that, Mr. Wynn and Mai's lives have changed for the better. I think that's a powerful message, that it's in our hands to make the world a better place if we're willing to work together and are willing to help others in need. That a world of peace, love, and goodwill towards men is completely possible and in our own hands. I just find that a lovely message for kids and adults alike. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Mr. Wynn's tragic life story as another reason why this Christmas episode has become such a beloved classic. As Hey Arnold always did, it took one of the plethora of quirky background characters and offered them a moment in the spotlight and let us see other aspects of their personality. But few of us could have guessed that Hey Arnold would be bold enough to tackle families split apart by conflict and war. Well, I mean, Gerald probably could have guessed.
You're a bold kid, Arnold. A bold kid.
It made it so much more real. It gave it a level of depth, tragedy, and grounded realism, which I can't think of any other kids' cartoon of the era being courageous enough to show. But it never made it outrageous. It's not a sudden shift in tone for the show, or even the episode, as to take you out of the narrative. This episode has received so many accolades for tastefully portraying the struggle many Asian Americans had to overcome in their lives, and how even to this day, there are families who are separated by war and conflict. It was one of the few kids shows which specifically addressed the life experiences of some Asian Americans, and as a Vietnamese American, I feel like this episode hit me a little differently as well. It gave me a new perspective on the hardships members of my own family went through during the Vietnam War. I've always kind of taken for granted my own luck at being born an American, and to be honest, I never really had much interest in my Vietnamese heritage.
You become what is known as a banana.
But I remember after watching this episode as a kid, asking my mother about it. This episode gave me something extremely valuable by motivating me to proactively ask my mother about her life experiences. And you know what? As an adult looking back on it, that was something special. This episode gave me a bit more appreciation for how hard my family had to work to give me the privileged life I was able to lead. I don't know, man. This episode is just really good. It's a special. I can't think of anything to criticize. You see, I have a Christmas watch list that I have to hit every Christmas or Christmas Eve, and this episode is always on there, usually right before I start the Christmas Story Marathon. Honestly, while things like The Grinch and Charlie Brown Christmas are more nostalgically intrinsic to the American Christmas experience, Arnold's Christmas is the superior story. It should be part of everyone's holiday playlist, or be watched at least once. Happy holidays. I love you all, nerds.